I'm also the curator of the Global Shapers Harare Hub, which is an initiative of the World Economic Forum. I'm also a steering committee member for the African Women Leaders Network under UN Women, representing women in business. I'm also a past area director for Toastmasters International, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. So as she was saying all this, I was trying to think to myself, but who am I outside of the roles that I have, or the titles that I have? Who am I? And this has been one of the most challenging questions for me to answer. I think up until 2 years ago, it was very hard. So perhaps before I share on the topic that I was given, which is how can women leave a legacy, I'll share a bit about myself before the titles. Is that okay? Yes. Yeah, so she said, I'm radical. Yeah, I like to say that I'm a rebel, which is the same thing. Yeah, I've always been a rebel. I'm an only child, so gogo, you know. I was raised by a single mom, and ndakakurira kuchitungwiza. Like I would fight with boys, everything, as I was growing up. So people were really afraid of me, which is very ironic that right now I don't even know how to fight, but I used to be a fighter. Then after that, I moved schools. I moved from Chitungwiza. Then I started learning in Acadia, junior school. High school, I went to Marondera. And that's when I think I managed to nurture the rebel, because that's when I did the most. If you ask anyone who went to school with me, they'll tell you that H. Carter, they used to call me H. Carter. I was Nandiri Horo Mori. There's one person who used to say that, a teacher at school, they'll call me Horo Mori. So as I was going through life, in my head I thought, you know what, I'm not being rebellious as such, but I'm just doing whatever I want. I'm not being accountable to anybody. What I feel like doing in that moment, that's what I'm doing. So I didn't see anything wrong with that. So I went on and on and on with life with that same attitude until maybe I was about to finish school and everything just came crashing down. You know, what we always say about women pulling each other down, I think maybe it's a privilege that I experienced it when I was much younger than when I was now, you know, a bit older and running a business. Because that's when I experienced that. I had a lot of women, you know, the moment I decided to turn my life around, which is very weird, and I said, you know what, I'm going to try to be a better person. That's when things started to change. Because, you know, when you become a better person, I think that's when some doors to your blessings start to open. Like all these things that you were covering with the rebellion starts to come out. And not everybody is comfortable with greatness. Not everyone will appreciate it. So with that, I became a bit timid, because I could see that the more I was doing better, the more I was doing great, the more resistance I started to get. So after that whole period, I think even in my life, that's the time that I cried the most in my whole life. So I started to question myself. So what do I have to do for people to accept me? Do I have to shrink? You know, do I have to go back to being someone people are just saying, this is a lost cause? Do I have to go back to that? So it took a long time for me to get to a point where I was like, okay, let me try to figure it out. Let me try to see the kind of person that I want to be. And with the kind of person I want to be, will I be comfortable with, you know, people not being okay with it? So with time, I wanted to do law and use it. They didn't give me law. I went to do political science, and it was the most terrible time of my life. I'm sorry if anyone is doing it, but it's because I wanted something else, then I was given something else. At that point, I didn't know why, but I was so depressed. I wasn't going to school. I would just go to school to, you know, to hear what people are saying towards the exams, and then write my exams, and then, well, get a 3 or a 2.2, or sometimes a 2.1. So I wasn't really, interested in going to school until I met a group of young women at college the final year who were more of, community champions, who are committed to trying to create a platform for university students to then, have an upper hand when they go into the real world. So that's when I started to learn a lot of things. From there, I met a lot of people. I got a job through knowing a lot of people as well, which I'll talk about in the last 5 minutes when I'm sharing the nuggets. So at that time, that's when I started to understand who I was. But it was always evolving. Who am I? Because, with the society we live in, there are a lot of labels that we're given. You can not be this and that. Otherwise, you'd be all over the place, or you don't know what you're doing. So because of that, when people would ask me, what do you do? I wouldn't say anything. I would think about it, and then I start over-explaining myself, trying to make people understand why I'm so interested in doing a lot of things. So as I was getting to know who I was, I then reached out to a friend who's a coach. And I was like to him, coach, I feel like I'm a failure. Somehow, I feel like everything I'm doing, it's leading nowhere. I feel like I don't have an identity. And this was me having attained some of the titles that I have, but still I didn't know who I was. So he said, okay, what's really wrong? And I said, when I speak to people, I don't know how to introduce myself. Do I say I'm the founder of Go Get Your Movement and then I tell them? Do I say that I've got a gift shop and then I tell them? Do I say that I run a restaurant? They would think that, I don't have a sole purpose. So after answering that question, I had to also ask a question, where I am right now. Where am I right now? I know where I want to go, fine. But where am I right now? Right now, I have a first degree. Will it take me to where I want to go? Do I need a second degree? I have worked in a bank. Is that experience enough for me to get to where I want to go? So this is also a good strategy for you when you want to leave a legacy. Take stock of your life. Where are you in terms of your fitness? Maybe in 10 years you want to be a personal trainer or whatever. Where are you in terms of that? Where are you in terms of your health? Because when you know where you are as well, that's how you know the help you need to get to where you are going. And which is one thing that I really leveraged on, the help. Because I would be lying if I say that I am extremely smart or I am where I am because of just, being good at what I do. But I am where I am because of the help that I've got, of the shoulders that I've stood on. So I got to understand that early on, that for me to go where I want to go, there's certain help that I need. Do I need to read books? Maybe. I'll find that information in books. But the most powerful tool that I found was mentorship. I think I'm very blessed when it comes to mentorship. I've been mentored by some amazing women who have literally held my hand, who have literally called and say, okay, right now, I don't know what to do. Because many a times when you've already gotten certain titles, it's very hard to go to someone and say, because you're afraid of being judged, because you're afraid of coming out as a phony, or maybe you're afraid of people thinking, Guti, you know what? She might not have worked for what she has, because but I've managed to have women who have gone to and said, look, can you please help me? And I've gotten that help. So when you know the kind of help that you need, that's when you can craft the roadmap to where you want to go. Because uriwega, let's be honest, it's very hard. The journey to greatness is very lonely as well, uriwega. But when you have help, people who are around you, choose the right circle, keep the right people around you. They can help you to realize your dreams. So when you then, figure out how to go there, bro, there's no other way for you not to succeed. When you know where you are and you accept it, and when you know where you're going and you are very clear about it, you have a clear vision, and when you know how to get there, how else can you fumble, right? But I feel that, plans change, which is weird because I'm a big planner. Like I designed this planner, so I'm a big planner. But then I also know that, plans change. So I go back to the first page and I'm like, okay, fine. We've evolved. Let's do it again. But that's the beauty of, continuously improving, which is what you need to do every single day. Try to be a person who adapts, who's continuously improving, because what was something yesterday could be different today. Like if you think of the issue of climate change, someone mentioned it, like the last speaker, she talked about climate change. Like there were years when we didn't even know what it meant, right? Which means things are always changing. So as a woman, you need to always be evolving. And that's one of the hardest things, because as you evolve, some people would think, oh, akuto-chinja. This is not you. This is not who you used to be. I've got friends who have said that. Like, my days are, those days. Then they see me, they're like, oh no, my friend, this is not you. I'm like, no, this is me. This is the evolved me. And it's okay. It's okay. Because I was listening to this lady who was saying that, if you've got friends who always remind you of who you were in the past, dish them. That's one of the strategies. You just say, okay, fine, I want to associate myself with people who know the person I am right now. But also, second strategy, like I said, if you know who you are, if you own your story, if you own all the things that you've done and understand that, well, I did that, you laugh about it, and I've evolved, then things like that don't really faze you much. You just look at it and you're like, you know what? Ignorance, I'll keep it moving. Tomorrow I might be a different person, and if you feel that you don't really align anymore with the person that I am today, sayonara, which is okay, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I think for me, those are some of the things that have helped me to be where I am right now, because I'm always reflecting. My friend, a friend of mine says that I've got a very short memory. I forget things easily that I want to forget in that moment. Because when I go back and start to think, okay, she said this because of what I did last year, then I'm wasting so much time thinking about things that don't matter anymore. So I always love to focus forward. Okay, let's pay school fees for our mistakes. We've already paid that. Don't wait till you school fees. But once you have school fees, form 4 form 4 moving on. So the school fees that we need to learn or we need to use are for the things that we fumble on in the future, because believe me, we all make mistakes. We are not all perfect. So final thing I'll say, even after all the things that I said, know who you are, know where you're going, know where you are right now, know how you can improve, the help you need, and always continuously improve. Also, give yourself a little grace. Things are hard. The economy is bad. Zimbabwe is bad sometimes. But it doesn't mean that, we should wallow in that and, complain all the time. But it also means that sometimes we need to give ourselves a break. We need to understand that, okay, this is something that is happening. It will pass, of course. Nothing lasts forever, even the tough times, right? So you have to acknowledge that, but also understand that you're human. You make mistakes. You're not always going to have everything together all the time. But at the same time, you are committed to always improving. So give yourself a little grace, and yeah, I think that's it from me. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. And also I saw we have 2 contests, so I've got these 2 planners for the 2 contest winners. Yeah.